A $4 million appropriation and transfer order from the general fund to the Capital Trust Fund will be up for a vote during this week's Town Council meeting. To make sense of that request, Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin talks with Finance Director Mark Milne on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, January 6th, 2016. I'm Sarah Mantle.
Mark, I wanted to talk a little bit today about an item that's on the agenda for tomorrow night's Town Council meeting, and that is a appropriation and transfer order for $4,000 from the general fund to the Capital Trust Fund.
$4 million.
$4 million, yep. Yes. Yep. And so I wanted to talk first about the Capital Trust Fund and talk a little bit about what the purpose of that fund is.
Sure. Yeah, the Capital Trust Fund is used as a financing mechanism to fund the town's general fund capital program. And what we do is we try to accumulate resources in that fund to meet the future cash and cash appropriations, as well as pay the debt service on future borrowings that might be authorized to fund various financial or various capital projects. So, we put them there to keep them segregated from operating funds, so that we have a dedicated revenue stream for the capital program.
Great. So tell me a little bit about how much money is right now is in the Capital Trust Fund and where it comes from.
Yeah, the current balance in we closed fiscal year 15 with just less than $10 million in the Capital Trust Fund. Every year, as part of the annual operating budget, we make a provision there to transfer some of the general fund tax revenue to that Capital Trust Fund to provide for future capital needs. And this request before the council is similar to requests we've made in the past. When we feel we have excess reserves in the general fund free cash balance that gets certified by the Department of Revenue every year, we will ask to periodically move a portion of those reserves to the Capital Trust Fund. So what we're doing here basically is taking some excess cash that we have in one reserve and putting it into another reserve, which is dedicated for the capital program.
So if it's just moving from one reserve to another, why
Right.
is this something that needs Town Council approval?
Because it's considered an appropriation from the general fund, and so every appropriation has to be approved by the council. Because obviously, when you're moving money from one reserve to another reserve, there could be some debate over that. So it's an appropriation, and people may want to discuss whether or not they agree with that transfer or not. Maybe they want that money to stay with the general fund and not go to the capital program. So it's considered an appropriation by state law, so we have to have the council's approval.
Now, is there any sort of time frame in which that money needs to be used?
No time frame at all. But by putting these funds into the Capital Trust Fund, if it is approved, we project that it will enhance our capital program going forward. We'll be able to appropriate more funds for the capital program, and we estimate that over the next 5 years, the balance in the trust fund we're consistent with the projected additions to that fund over the next 5 years. We feel that we can accomplish close to $40 million in new capital projects over the next 5 years.
Great. So the $4 million, just to go back, that's coming from free cash. And tell me a little bit about where we are in terms of free cash. I know we've had a couple of conversations about this before.
Sure. Our latest certification at the end of last fiscal year set the balance at $13,949,000. So if this is approved, the free cash balance will then drop to $9,949,000, and that's a balance we're comfortable with. It's almost twice the size of the town council's policy reserve, which is about $5.6 million. So we're still well above the town council's policy reserve, and so we feel that with the capital needs that we have, this would be an appropriate transaction to dedicate more funds to the capital program to address many of the needs that we have in there.
Sure. So can we talk, Mark, a little bit about the financial impact of this transaction?
Sure. It'll reduce the general fund reserve balance and increase the reserve balance that is dedicated for the capital program, allowing us to increase the amount of projects we could approve in the future for the capital program without impacting the operational budget at all, because we still maintain a healthy reserve in the general fund for bond rating purposes, for emergency purposes, and for any new program initiatives that we may want to start that need to have an infusion of funds, for example, to get them off the ground. This will still remain financially healthy as far as the reserve levels go for the general fund as well, and the capital trust fund.
Indeed. So I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about capital needs. Of course, this money, if approved, will go into that capital trust fund. And of course, we are in the time of year when staff is working on that budget. Where are we in terms of looking at the capital budget for fiscal 2017?
Sure. We are, we've already done some initial projections incorporating this, if this $4 million transfer were to be approved. And again, we think we can do a combination of cash and bond authorized projects that total around $40 million over the next 5 years. So we do have, however, we have $125 million worth of submissions.
Wow.
Over the next 5 years for just for general fund projects, not counting the enterprise funds. So it's still well below what the requests are coming in at. So there is a need, an identified need to try to raise as many funds as possible for our capital program, and so that's what we're attempting to do here. So we're going through the process now of evaluating all the capital submissions, ranking them in accordance with the criteria that we've established, and then we'll be sitting down with each department head soon to begin the process of having lengthy discussions about each one of those to try to bring forward, so the town manager can bring forward his recommended list for funding for next year.
Sure, and of course, the enterprise funds are a different animal. Those, ostensibly are self-sufficient. Is that something that capital trust fund dollars ever go to fund the enterprise funds' capital desires, or are those really you try to keep those kind of enclosed in the self-sufficient model that the enterprise funds have?
Yeah, we do. We try to keep every enterprise fund responsible for all of their capital needs. However, the two that are have limitations are the recreation type revolving funds. The Hyannis Houston Community Center, of course, is the bonds that were issued to build that facility are paid for out of the capital trust fund. So they do. That is one exception. And then the golf course is not in a financial position to do any major capital improvements based on their current revenue structure. So, if we were to do any major capital improvements at a golf course, it would have to come out of the capital trust fund, or we would have to wait till the bonds are paid off on the Hyannis Golf Course acquisition, which is a few years down the road, before we could do anything major there. They can handle some smaller capital needs, but they can't do anything major. So those are the two that may require some general fund assistance if we were to do something considerable for capital improvements there. But the rest of the enterprise funds have historically always been responsible for their own capital program.
Great. And Mark, just going back to the town council item, is there anything else there that you feel that people should be aware of? Any concerns you might have over whether that passes or not?
Just that, no concerns. I mean, obviously, if it were not to pass, then we would be able to do less in the form of capital projects over the next 5 years. So, that based on the list of 125 million, I'm not sure that would be a very good for us as far as being able to address those needs. So, hopefully, this will be approved, and we'll be able to more aggressively address that program.